happy Thanksgiving. It's also game day, and hopefully game day goes as well as does Thanksgiving. Hopefully your Thanksgiving goes well, but we are gearing up for a game against the Cowboys that I don't want to say is a must-win, but it's about as close to a must-win as possible if you were hoping to really make a late-season push for the playoffs. Now, one thing that I want to address before we get into it, I have had several comments recently from longtime viewers of the channel that were basically refinding the channel. Basically, I had a video pop up on their timeline and they had not watched the channel for quite some time. And I do want to address this because I get this a lot. And a lot during the season, my channel absolutely tanks in numbers. So if you were here and you wish you were here more often, there is a button that looks like a bell down by the like button, etc. And that makes sure that YouTube tells you when I post videos, which, by the way, is daily. So let's get into it. What are we watching as the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Dallas Cowboys? Well, the number one thing for which we want to watch in this game is momentum. The Chiefs have never really carried momentum this season. They started off with a couple of losses, then they got a win, then a loss, then a win, then a loss, etc. It was just back and forth this season. Big loss or big win, devastating loss. That has been the story of this season. You absolutely want to get a win against the Cowboys today in order to gain momentum. You had a one-possession win, and that is kind of like remembering who you really are if you were these Kansas City Chiefs. You know, those days where you wake up and all of a sudden you find something funny that you used to find funny, but it hasn't been funny to you in a very long time because you only sleep 4 hours a night on work nights or whatever it is that gets you. Right, one of those types of things. The Chiefs all of a sudden woke up and remembered who they were. There's this scene in, which movie is that? It is Thor Ragnarok, where Hela is kind of beating the crud out of Thor, right? And Thor gets this vision of a character who has died. I don't know if I can spoil that one. I don't know if that's too new to spoil. But the character who has died says, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you the god of hammers?" Because Thor's having an existential crisis because he doesn't have his hammer. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, no. I'm the god of thunder." And kaboom, right? So that was kind of what it seems like the game last week against the Colts might have been for these Kansas City Chiefs. They wake up and realize, oh, we're the guys who win. And when the games are close, we win those too. So if the Chiefs are, we're nearing the ending salvo, the closing salvo of the season. And if the Chiefs are going to do anything with this year, they have to find momentum and they have to find it now. Another thing worth watching in this game, the interior offensive line. Trey Smith is going to miss another game this season. Prior to the trade deadline, that would not have been the biggest deal in the world. But in 2 games with the Cowboys, Quinnen Williams has racked up 2 tackles for loss, 5 tackles, 6 quarterback hits, and 1.5 sacks. In order to run the offense, Kingsley, Creed, and Mike have to hold Williams in check. The offense is one of the big reasons why the team has never really found rhythm. They haven't really been a problem, the offense, not in the way that they have been in prior seasons, but they find success in fits and starts, or it's just a blowout type territory for this team. Luckily, there hasn't really been any devastatingly unproductive games, but they've had unproductive games, and in those games they'll have a couple drives that look real nice, or they will have games where start to finish, pillar to post, they are absolutely slaughtering. Now, The Colts game is interesting because they had 90 plays, 90 plus plays of offense. They had 33 first downs. I believe they held the ball for 44 or 45 minutes. I mean, these were team statistics that looked as bad as the Raiders game. But Patrick Mahomes threw that interception on the second play of the game, and Kareem Hunt gave the ball away in the red zone. That's how close that Colts game was, in my opinion, I believe, to being an absolute blowout. The Chiefs had been moving the ball the entire afternoon versus the Colts. Took a lot of field goals, right? But that opening drive, if you get a field goal there, as opposed to an interception that turns into 7 points, that's a 10-point swing. That Kareem Hunt fumble, the offense was looking pretty good right then. What if they were going to go in and score a touchdown? Right? So those small things are what build towards momentum, and stopping Quinnen Williams from wrecking the offense has to be a priority. The third thing worth watching here is a quick point just because I have to make it. Because if you are here, you've probably... Oh, no, that's the next one. This point is that somebody is going to have a big day receiving. I don't know who. But the Cowboys are giving away some yards on offense. The Cowboys are giving away some plays to opposing receivers, or at least opposing pass catchers. Last week, A.J. Brown went 8 for 110 and a touchdown. The prior week, against the Raiders, Brock Bowers went 7 for 72. The week before that, with the Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. went 7 for 96 and a touchdown. And then the week before that, Troy Franklin of the Broncos, 6 for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not monster games. No one's going off for 240 against them. No one's getting 3 receiving or 4 receiving touchdowns against them. But these are really good days for pass catchers in the NFL. A.J. Brown for the Eagles, who does he kind of remind you of? Well, a little bit of Rashee Rice. You see shades of Rashee Rice in A.J. Brown's game. Brock Bowers, not a one-for-one translation to Kelsey, but a physical receiving tight end. Marvin Harrison Jr., there's no real correlation for Marvin Harrison Jr. on the Kansas City Chiefs, but Rashee Rice is the closest thing, a physical possession wide receiver. And then, obviously, Troy Franklin, who went 6 for 89 and 2 touchdowns. Well, Xavier Worthy is that kind of receiver. Hollywood Brown is that kind of receiver. And so is Tyquan Thornton, that kind of receiver. So sometimes when I make this point in one of these videos, watch for this receiver, it's because a team is really weak against tight ends. So Travis Kelce could have a big day. A team has cornerbacks who all run 4.5, 4.40s. Xavier Worthy should be primed in this one. But when you're looking at the Cowboys and over the last month who has had success against them, well, it's kind of a potpourri of wide receivers. So the Chiefs, if they can have just one guy break out just a little bit, it should go a long way towards securing the victory. The number 4 point here, Esa Pole will be active versus the Cowboys. Probably. This is because Trey Smith is injured, but that doesn't really make much sense. Esa Pole only took reps at offensive tackle. Not to mention, you have several players with inside-outside versatility, and you have several players with inside-inner-side versatility. That is, that they play guard and center. So I see no reason to believe Esa Pole will find himself on the field, but it is interesting that he finds himself active versus the Cowboys so soon after returning to the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 5. Can the defense stop the anti-Sky? George Pickens will forever be mentioned in the same breath as Sky Moore here in Kansas City, and I get it. but I kind of don't. Right? There's no real comparing them, and I think that you can play those games all the live long day if you're talking about the draft in the NFL. So, one thing to know about George Pickens, he already has 1,000 yards on the season. He has 67 receptions for 1,054 yards. That is a 15.7 yard per catch average and 8 touchdowns. Trent McDuffie will have his hands full. So too will Jalen Watson, whoever it is that finds himself going up one-on-one against George Pickens. But don't take it too hard against Brett Veach during this game. After all, wide receivers are one of the trickiest positions in the draft to get right, especially once you start getting past the top 3 or 4 names. The final thing worth talking about here, I put out an entire video on this topic just yesterday. Sack the Dak. Sounds almost like cursing, but it's not. If you can sack Dak Prescott and hold him under a 100 rating, you have a really, really good chance at winning. The offensive tackle spots are the weak part along the Cowboys' line. So is it possible that we see the cornerbacks get a little bit of play here? Dak is mobile, but he's not the fastest quarterback to ever play the position. Will we see some cornerback blitzes? Will we see some safety blitzes? Will we see some of this type of action coming along so outside of the offensive tackle? Aiming to just slingshot that guy right towards Dak Prescott, force him into a fast decision, and maybe get the sack itself. These are the 6 things that I think are worth watching as we head into a Thanksgiving Day game against the Dallas Cowboys. That is what I have in this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And I hope to have you back for the next one.